Hey everyone, Matthew Robinson back again. So today is the American world premiere of Catching Fire, which is the sequel book and sequel movie to The Hunger Games. Now, I've read all the Hunger Game books, and I'm going to see Catching Fire soon. Uh, Now, for those of you who've taken the time to read the review I did on the book trilogy, you kind of have an idea of what I feel about The Hunger Games and Katniss Everdeen, but I'll just give a little brief thought on that. Um, I liked Katniss Everdeen, especially in the first two books. In Mockingjay, which I will not spoil, um, in Mockingjay, her character takes a change, and I wasn't much of a fan of her in that. Most people are not a fan of Mockingjay. But the first two books, I was a really big fan of Katniss. Like, she was, like, awesome. The first, like, few pages about her trapping animals, and I just thought that was cool. And I read the books before the movies came out. So to me, Katniss was just like this. I don't know. I guess the best way to describe it is she was really sexy to me. I mean, she was just like she could kill things. She could fight. She was smart. She was headstrong, and she wasn't someone who was very interested in romance or anything of that nature. I know it's kind of weird, but I don't know. I'm just not a very romantic person in that regard. I like a woman who just knows what she wants and that's what she goes after. But Katniss was cool, and I really liked enjoying. I really liked reading her thoughts and her inner monologue. Something that they just took out of the movies, which I think is kind of a shame because you get to see the kind of duality that her character plays. So she was really cool, and I'm sure Catching Fire is going to be cool. I'm hearing great things about it from critics and people who went to go see the midnight premiere alike. Um, Now, on the other end, the character, as you may have noticed with the title, is Lara Croft, also known as Tomb Raider. And actually, the game was first called Tomb Raider, featuring Lara Croft, and then they realized that Lara Croft is the reason people want to play the game. I didn't play a lot of Lara Croft when she first came out on the PlayStation, or even the PlayStation 2 for that matter. I started to get more into her towards later in life. Yeah, I mean, she was like, quote unquote, like hot, but she's a 3D pixelated model. I mean, how hot can she really be, kind of thing. Um, but I really regained my interest in the Lara Croft character when they rebooted her for the recent Tomb Raider. And in this one, even though she's still attractive and she's still like pretty, quote unquote, she's more of, I don't want to say the word assertive. She's always been assertive, but she's more of a desexualized character, I suppose. And I have mixed feelings about that because on the one end, yes, it's good that you have a character who is not sexualized, at least not much, and it's kind of this role model character who can go out there get things done. On the other hand, it kind of some of the things that about Tomb Raider kind of fall into that, as people call it, slut shaming category, where uh, just because she's like pretty and she dresses a certain way means that she's suddenly not as valuable as a character, or she clearly can't be that intelligent, or she's just fan service or something of that nature. And I have mixed feelings about that. I think there's some merits to both sides of the argument. As there are some arguments about Katniss. Some people I've talked to feel that Katniss is too much of a character who lets things happen to her and doesn't really do anything until she's pinned in and has no choice but to make one. Even, and this is a slight spoiler, but not really, um, even for people who have, when she puts herself up, sacrifices herself, volunteers for her sister Prim, that's more of a force into that situation kind of thing, not as much of her assertively making the decision. But, okay, I mean, again, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think she's an assertive enough character. Um, Now, just because, in order to really break down the argument, I'm going to have to spoil some things. If you haven't read the books or seen the movies and you don't want anything spoiled about the Hunger Games books, I'm just talking about the books here, not the movies. Um, yeah, I wouldn't watch any more of this video, sorry. Now, I wanted to do Katniss versus lore because I think they're two very interesting characters that are sometimes seen on this opposite spectrum of the strong female archetype. You've got Katniss Everdeen, who's a very desexualized character, so much that I actually think that she's sexually attractive because, well, now it's hard to not think of it as Jennifer Lawrence. So I'm imagining Jennifer Lawrence going through and killing woodland creatures and not being concerned about love or holding hands or anything that, I don't want to use the word mushy, but any of the stuff that I'm not very good at expressing. So I like that there's a woman out there who's also really bad at it, so I wouldn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Um, but she's on that one side of the female target. Like, she's super strong, she's really not interested in romance, and she just wants to complete the mission. Then the other hand, you have Lara Croft, who actually, romance wise, depends on which interpretation of the character you're going with or which video game you look at. Sometimes she does have romantic interest, or at least sexual interest. And then at other times, she's just trying to survive. Like in the new Tomb Raider game, while some of her other male counterparts certainly seem to have an attraction for her, and maybe even some of her female counterparts, she's mostly going for the mission. Still, obviously, Tomb Raider is considered a sex symbol of some type, and on the strong side, put her up with like Wonder Woman and Power Girl. And then you got Katniss, who's on the other side, and you can put her with Jodie Foster's character from Silence of the Lambs, or even if you want to go somewhere even more recent, you can go with Abby Mills from Sleepy Hollow, the new TV show. So you got that side of it. I don't know who I like more. Both offer some great entertainment. If it came down to an actual knockdown, drag out fight, I think hand to hand combat, Lara Croft's going to win. She's trained in that. She's more of that kind of fighter. Now, bow versus bow, both of them use bow and arrows prominently in the game. I think Katniss is a little bit better with the bow and arrow, so I'm going to give the edge to Katniss on that. But in an overall fight, like them fighting in the woods, as much as I would like to say Katniss would win, I think Lara Croft would win. As much as Katniss is a survivor, she's also someone who gets lucky quite a bit and also has an insane amount of mental problems as shown in Mockingjay. And if we went like Katniss from Hunger Games or Katniss even from Catching Fire, I'm thinking, yeah, Katniss wins. But after her character deteriorated so much in Mockingjay, if you look at the whole book trilogy versus Lara Croft's history, Lara Croft wins. And it's such a shame what happens to Katniss at the end of Mockingjay. She becomes this, she became a character you liked listening to her, balance between sanity and sanity. But once she dips over into insanity and just, self-loathing and self-pity, the character becomes, while maybe realistic in some regards, not very fun to be around. It's like that bummer at the party. The dude's like, hey, man, what do you think about this? I'm like, I don't know, man. It's kind of lame. While Lara Croft, no matter what seems to happen to her, while she might experience trauma, she, maybe because we're not in her head, she kind of powers through a little bit more. She certainly isn't someone who pushes people away the way that Katniss does, and Katniss just becomes. It's almost like, in order for Katniss to be the strong female hero, not only did they have to desexualize her, but they also had to make her kind of a jerk and really wishy-washy and give her all these character flaws. And that's a shame. I wish she could have stayed the way she was in the first book, and even somewhat in the second book, where, yes, she still had flaws, but she was definitely more of a forward-moving, forward-thinking person. Whereas in Mockingjay, she just becomes someone who's this close to being locked up in the asylum, and probably belongs in the asylum. Not that you can blame it after everything that happens to her. So I think Lara Croft wins in this sense because I actually think Lara Croft is a better symbol of female power. As unrealistic as she might be, well, both of them are fairly unrealistic as characters, but as unrealistic as Lara Croft is, Lara Croft is the woman who can be just like the male action heroes. Yes, they have their low moments, and yes, they have those moments where they think all is lost, but then they dig down deep and they survive, and trust me, the new Tomb Raider game makes a point of you never forgetting that Lara Croft is a survivor. But the point is, she is one, and she's really tough, and You're not going to hear her break down and start crying or trying to rip up the carpet in the room she's in just so she can dig her way out. Like, that's not going to happen with Lara Croft. Lara Croft is not going to go insane. She's going to fight and make everyone else go insane and try to kill her. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I know Catching Fire is coming out. I can't wait to see it myself. Catching Fire is a great book. I like it better than the first one in some ways. But I think Lara Croft has Katniss edged out. You know, that is what it is. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Leave your comments, posts on my Tumblr, on my Twitter. Who do you think is better in a fight? Or just a better character overall? Katniss or Lara Croft? Leave them in the comment section below. And if there's ever someone you guys want me to discuss, who you think would be better, who's a better character, or whatever, well, suggest that too. I'd love to hear it. So follow me on Twitter at Radio Final Cut. Check out my blog, rfmp.tumblr.com. And all those other links are down below. Alright, I want to rate. We don't have rating anymore. Well, you have like. You can like. See how long it's been since I've done a YouTube video? I still think about rating. So like my video. Subscribe. Post this on your Twitter feeds, your Instagrams, whatever. And until next time, please remember, it's on the hair.